Welcome back to the deep dive.
No.
This week, it felt like a huge shift in enterprise tech. We saw AI not just, writing code, but actually starting to clean up its own messes.
Yeah, and maybe even more significantly, a glimpse of computing power that just completely rewrites the rulebook on speed.
Exactly. So our mission, as always, is to cut through all that weekly noise, using the sources you've shared, and pull out the essential, actionable insights you need.
That's the plan. We're diving deep into a pretty packed stack this week: Azure, M365, Power Platform Security, the works. It's really about taking that, overwhelming flood of tech news and giving you the strategic so what. Why does this announcement actually matter for what you're doing this quarter?
Okay, let's get into it then, starting with Azure. The sources gave us a good mix, right? Some real foundational stuff alongside the cutting edge.
Right.
Like deep dives into Azure Managed Redis, always critical for caching and performance.
Absolutely.
And there was that specific video on understanding Azure Availability Zone mappings for subscriptions. It's not the most glamorous topic, maybe.
No, definitely not glamorous, but it's that essential groundwork, isn't it? The stuff you absolutely need for reliability.
The non-negotiable homework, yeah.
Reliability is, everything. Those pieces ensure things stay stable. But what's strategically fascinating, I think, is how Microsoft is making it easier to actually analyze the data sitting in that stable infrastructure.
Ah, okay. Tell me more about that key GA item you flagged. From queries to conversations, unlock insights about your data using Azure Storage Discovery.
Yeah, this is a pretty significant general availability release. It really signals this ongoing shift away from needing, deep expertise in query languages like SQL or KQL.
Who's still query language?
Right, KQL. Away from needing that just to get insights from your structured data. Instead, you basically interact conversationally with your Azure storage.
You just ask it questions in plain English.
Pretty much. You ask the data questions, and the system figures out the complex query stuff on the back end.
So conversational data access.
Right.
It makes it more democratic, accessible, but doesn't that also, democratize the risk a bit?
That's a really good point.
If I don't really get the underlying KQL or how the data is structured, can I really trust the output? Am I just opening the door to, democratized bad analysis?
That is absolutely the critical tension here. The promise is definitely accessibility, but the reality, it needs responsible guardrails.
Okay.
The system still fundamentally relies on high-quality, structured data underneath. The AI's job is interpretation. It's not generating truth out of thin air.
Right.
So what this really signals is a shift in priorities. It's less about teaching thousands of users complex query languages and more about perfecting the prompt engineering, the grounding, the context for the AI agents accessing that data.
So the burden of complexity shifts.
Exactly, from the analyst to the platform itself.
That's a really powerful way to put it.
Okay.
Okay, shifting gears. Microsoft 365. This section felt like a perfect illustration of that current tension in IT,
Yeah.
The huge leaps in AI copilots versus the, sometimes painful need to just keep existing systems running smoothly.
Yeah, we saw both ends of the spectrum clearly. On the, let's say, aspirational side, you have all this investment in new AI experiences and academic offering from Microsoft 365 Copilot. That's the future, the new way to collaborate.
Yeah.
But if your actual Windows endpoint is slow and clunky, that amazing Copilot experience just feels frustrating.
Yeah, exactly. So when performance is lagging, the best update isn't always a flashy new feature. Sometimes it's just a better way to figure out what's wrong.
Absolutely. And that's why I thought it was great the sources highlighted Windows Performance Analyzer, the best troubleshooting tool you're not using.
WPA. Classic.
It really is the classic unsung utility. In a world obsessed with, shiny new copilots, the ability to deeply analyze and fix system bottlenecks is the real hero sometimes.
Like an X-ray machine for IT pros.
Perfect analogy. Mastering a tool like WPA. That's often what separates, an average troubleshooter from a really high-level SRE. It makes sure that whole collaborative experience we're investing so much in actually works smoothly.
That's really practical advice. Okay, let's move over to Power Platform and Dynamics 365. For years, this was kind of seen as the domain of low-code citizen developers, right? But the sources this week really show it crossing a threshold, becoming mission-critical infrastructure. The big clue was Power Platform meets Terraform.
Yeah, that pairing Power Platform and Terraform, that might be the strongest signal this week that Power Platform has fully matured. It's a real enterprise building block now.
And Terraform, for anyone listening who isn't familiar.
Right, Terraform is basically infrastructure as code. It means you define your environments, your configurations, not by clicking around in some portal, but by writing actual code, repeatable, auditable code.
So this goes beyond just governance. It's more fundamental.
Oh yeah, much more. It's really acknowledging that low code isn't just for small side projects anymore. It's running mission critical stuff.
Okay.
And when you have hundreds of apps, hundreds of environments, you absolutely need robust, repeatable, audited release pipelines. That's what infrastructure as code brings. It bridges that world of the app builders with traditional DevOps best practices. Predictability, stability, scale.
And within those Power Platform apps, we're also seeing AI get embedded right into the data layer itself, not just sitting on top of the interface.
That's the other key innovation here. Enrich your Dataverse data using AI prompt columns. Think about that.
Okay, break that down. AI prompt columns.
Imagine a column in your Dataverse table, your main application data store, but this column doesn't just hold a value. It actually runs a tiny, predefined LLM prompt whenever data gets entered or updated.
Huh. So the data gets categorized or summarized automatically right as it comes in.
Exactly. It's like having a tiny AI worker built right into the spreadsheet column, basically. It could categorize customer support ticket sentiment, route things based on urgency, all happening at the data layer before a human might even see it.
Wow.
And we also saw related updates, like practical improvements to the report copilot in Power BI, making it easier to build analytics, probably leveraging some of that pre-enriched data.
Okay, so if AI is getting embedded that deeply, right into the data, we have to talk about the messy reality of how the AI-generated code is getting built. Let's jump into DevOps, SRE, and infrastructure.
Yeah.
The sources brought up this brilliant term, vibe coding.
Vibe coding. It's perfect, isn't it? It captures that current developer experience so well, that really experimental back and forth conversational loop between a dev and an LLM.
Feels fast. You're in the flow.
Right. You can churn out like 50 lines of scaffolding code in 60 seconds. It feels amazing.
We've all done it, right? That late night coding session, just vibing with the AI, and suddenly things like version control or security checks feel optional.
Exactly. But the speed comes at a cost. Usually technical debt or worse, security holes. That's the vibe coding hangover.
The hangover, right. The code is sloppy, maybe inefficient, possibly insecure.
But the sources also provided a really critical counterpoint to that potential sloppiness. Something called codev, AI agent teams that eliminate vibe coding hangovers.
AI agent teams, so like multiple AIs working together.
Precisely. This points towards sophisticated multi-agent systems, probably leveraging things like agent-to-agent protocols we're starting to hear about, where autonomous AI agents actually review, refine, and test the code that was generated during that initial vibe session.
Okay, so you have AI agents acting as the cleanup crew, making sure the speed of conversational development doesn't lead to disaster down the line.
That's the idea. And if machines are writing and reviewing the code, the whole security paradigm has to shift too.
How so?
Well, the sources highlighted a new framework mentioned in a Cisco blog specifically for securing AI-generated code. This isn't just about traditional firewalls or perimeter defense anymore.
Right.
We need security evaluation built into the agents, into the code generation pipeline itself. The checks, the guardrails, they have to be there before the code even gets committed, because the generation speed is just too fast to catch everything after the fact.
That makes total sense. And it links perfectly to the next section, data, analytics, and the AI infrastructure underpinning all this. These systems need a massive, high-performance backend.
Absolutely.
The sources mentioned external data materialization in Fabric Data Warehouse. Sounds dense.
It is a bit dense, technically, but it's a really vital performance trick. Materialization basically means when you run a complex calculation or create a special view of external data, the result gets physically stored cached, essentially efficiently inside the data warehouse.
Okay, so those complex transformations don't have to be rerun every single time someone queries the data, like a performance cheat code for data engineers.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. It radically speeds up queries and cuts down latency. Now, speaking of infrastructure for advanced AI, the complete guide to vector databases for machine learning was highlighted. This is essential reading right now.
Definitely. For the listener, can you just quickly recap why vector databases are so crucial, especially for RGE systems?
Sure. They're basically the backbone of retrieval augmented generation, or RAG-GU. RAG is what lets LLMs access specific, up-to-date, often proprietary information that wasn't in their original training data.
So if the AI needs to know your company's latest sales figures or a specific internal policy,
It searches the vector database. That database stores information text, documents, data as mathematical representations, vectors. The LLM can then find the most relevant vectors to answer the query accurately.
Got it. And managing and scaling that vector store effectively is key.
It's the difference between a cool AI proof of concept and something that actually works reliably in production at scale. And speaking of integrating AI, we saw that Anthropic is connecting Claude, their LLM, directly into Teams, Outlook, and OneDrive.
Interesting. So more competition right inside the M365 ecosystem.
Yep. It just shows that ongoing push to embed these powerful LLMs, even competing ones, right into the tools people use every day. The LLM wars are definitely being fought on your desktop.
The pace is just relentless. Okay, let's switch to security, compliance, and privacy. The focus here seemed really sharp on being proactive, catching threats before they do damage.
Yes, definitely proactive.
We saw that intriguing mention of a safer way to break industrial systems on purpose, which sounds scary, but implies controlled offensive testing, right?
Yeah.
Red teaming.
Exactly. That concept totally validates the red team approach. To build strong defenses, you have to safely understand how attackers might try to break things. But the most effective defenses listed this week really centered on identity and behavior.
Okay, starting with identity.
First and foremost, security starts with identity. That's why the practitioner's playbook, Microsoft Entra Suite in action, is so important. Entra is Microsoft's whole unified platform for identity and access management. Locking down that perimeter is job number one for modern defense.
Right. But what happens if a threat gets past that initial check? Maybe through a stolen password or something.
That's where the behavioral analysis comes in. We saw the value of UEBA and new data sources for analytics and anomalies. UEBA, that's user behavior analytics.
Okay, UEBA, what does it do?
It basically learns what's normal activity for every user account. Who accesses what systems, when, from where, how often. It builds a baseline.
Ah, so it's like a digital neighborhood watch.
Yep.
It flags when Bob from accounting suddenly tries to access engineering servers at 3 a.m. from a weird location.
That's an excellent analogy, yeah. It's designed to catch those subtle insider threats or compromised accounts that might look legitimate on the surface but are acting strangely.
Makes sense.
And finally, on the app side, there was a critical focus on application security, specifically app governance in action, preventing exploits in Salesforce and beyond.
Oh, exploits.
Duh.
Those seem to pop up a lot.
They do. Oath is how we connect different apps and grant permissions, like letting a third-party tool access your calendar. Abusing that mechanism, stealing access tokens, tricking users into granting permissions is a huge vulnerability, especially across different SaaS platforms. Preventing that is vital.
Absolutely. Okay, great overview of the defense side. Now let's shift to helping the listener level up their own skills. The learning and certification section had a really interesting mix.
Yeah, the range was pretty incredible.
Everything from the big Microsoft Partner Skilling Hub as a starting point.
Right. It's the formal guidance route. But then looking at day-to-day developer productivity, that integration of mermaid charts in Visual Studio 2026 really caught my eye.
Mermaid charts, I've seen those. They let you make diagrams with text, right?
Exactly. Developers can create complex flowcharts, sequence diagrams, all kinds of visuals just using simple text syntax. You can embed documentation right alongside the code. It's a massive boost for keeping docs up to date efficiently.
That feels super relevant in this age of prompt-driven development, or PDD, that everyone's talking about.
It really is. PDD, where you're primarily prompting an LLM to generate or modify code. Well, mastering that workflow means understanding the new IDE features. That's why mastering chat modes in VS Code with Burke Holland was highlighted.
Knowing how to talk to the AI effectively within your tools.
Precisely. Understanding those different chat modes, how to refine the output, inject the right context, really integrate Copilot smoothly, that's becoming the new baseline skill for efficient AI-assisted development.
And then, kind of contrasting all that AI efficiency, we had the monster data structures and algorithms mega course, 49 hours of interview prep.
Yeah, 49 hours.
It just proves that even with all the AI tools helping write the code, that fundamental computer science knowledge,
Yeah.
it's still the critical hurdle for getting hired in many tech roles.
Absolutely. It shows that while the AI might be writing more of the code, humans still need to understand the principles of what makes code good, efficient, and scalable. You still need to pass those theoretical tests.
Very true. Okay, let's wrap things up with the big picture. Industry news and trends. This is where we see the macro forces reshaping everything. There was that interesting retrospective, Why the Web Was Down, explained by a retired Microsoft engineer. Always good to get historical context.
Definitely valuable context. But the forward-looking news this week was, well, staggering.
The speeds involved are just mind-bending. First, that strategic partnership. IBM and Grok partner to accelerate enterprise AI deployment.
Right, Grok is known for its specialized hardware, LPUs language processing units, promising incredible speeds specifically for AI inference, for running the models. This partnership is all about getting AI deployed and running faster in the enterprise.
But then there's the Google quantum AI news.
Yeah.
A reported 13,000x speedup over the world's fastest supercomputer.
Yeah. That is the absolute headliner, and it's so important not to just gloss over that number, 13,000 times faster.
It's hard to even comprehend.
It really is. A speed up like that over the best we have today. It fundamentally redefines what's possible in fields like physics, chemistry, material science, cryptography, complex optimization problems.
We're not talking about just the next step in Moore's law here.
Not even close. This is potentially solving problems in minutes or hours that currently take centuries of classical computing time. It literally changes the definition of a hard problem in computer science.
Wow. And connecting that almost unbelievable compute power back to the user experience, we saw Google introduce speech to retrieval, S2R, direct voice-to-embedding search.
This sounds really futuristic, but it's the next logical step for search interfaces. S2R basically skips the step of transcribing your spoken words into text first.
Which adds delay and can lose nuance.
Exactly. Instead, the voice input itself is immediately processed into a machine learning vector and embedding, and that embedding becomes the search query directly.
So direct voice-to-vector matching.
Right. It allows for much more contextual, nuanced search, matching the meaning and intent in your voice, not just keywords. It promises much faster and potentially more relevant results from voice queries.
Okay, so let's try and synthesize all of this. 8 sections, from AI in Dataverse columns all the way to quantum speedups. What's the big unifying theme?
You know, the overwhelming theme this week, for me, is that the line between AI as a separate tool and AI as core enterprise infrastructure has just completely vanished.
It's not just an application anymore.
Not at all. It is the new operating system in a way. It's embedded in your data layer with those prompt columns. It's cleaning up code in your DevOps pipeline with agent teams. It's optimizing your security defenses with UEBA. And it's being deployed potentially using quantum-level acceleration at the infrastructure layer.
So it's everywhere, and the speed is accelerating.
The velocity of change has never felt higher, and the integration has never been deeper across the entire stack.
That really sums it up well. And it leads perfectly into our final provocative thought for you, the listener. Considering that Google quantum AI result, that potential 13,000x speedup, what actually happens to traditional computer science fundamentals?
Yeah, like those data structures and algorithms in that 49-hour course.
Exactly. When raw computational power becomes, for certain problems, virtually unlimited, where does the main challenge for developers shift? Maybe it's less about optimizing code for performance and more about optimizing for human intent, for clarity, for ethical alignment, because the hardware limits are starting to just dissolve.
That's a fascinating question. Definitely something to chew on this week.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into another packed week of essential tech news. We really encourage you to explore the sources we touched on.
Keep digging, keep learning.
And we'll talk to you next time.